pathetic. You were great once, before doubt addled your will. Before you rendered judgment on Cyrene. Before you murdered the innocent and guilty, all in one stroke. You weak, sorry fool! How does it feel to have slain millions? To have betrayed your own family?
I betrayed no one. I still believe, old friend. I believe in the sovereign might of the Golden Throne, and in the purity of the Imperium.
Dawn of War is one of the best RTS games ever made. It is set within the Warhammer 40,000 universe. I did touch on what that is in my previous video, but simply put, humanity good, alien bad. I'm gonna assume you're familiar with the basics. Dawn of War takes place sometime before the fall of Cadia. We follow the story of Captain Gabriel Angelos and the Blood Ravens. Their force is made up of the entire 3rd Company and a detachment of Terminators and Scouts from the 1st and 10th Company. In total, 150 Marines. This story follows their campaign on the planet Tartarus. Tartarus is an imperial colony bolstering a population of 4 million. It's a deceivingly unremarkable planet, for it harbors a dark secret. Currently, however, Tartarus is in the path of a warp storm, a cataclysmic event that'll consume and trap everything on the planet. Due to this, an imperial fleet was summoned to evacuate the entire population. Yet not only do they have 5 days to complete this evacuation, a large orc war has laid siege to the planet. As the orc ships engage the Imperial fleet, as they fight a losing battle, it is within this hour the Blood Ravens arrive, headed with the battle barge, the Litany of Fury. In the midst of this, a clan within the orc host has broken off from the battle, as they begin assaulting one of the spaceports. The local guardsmen protecting this, the 37th Tartarus Regiment, are on the brink of collapse. A detachment of Blood Ravens headed by Captain Gabriel Angelos himself deploy to halt their advance and secure the spaceport. As we follow this story, it'll become clear there is more to this, as there's an Eldar incursion and a Chaos invasion. However, first, we need to clarify a few things. The rules. 1. Throughout this entire game, we will not lose a single man under our command. 2. The same applies to any allies. We will save as many of our own as possible. 3. We must destroy the Xeno, the mutant, the heretic. The more threats we remove, the more human lives we'll save. But why should we care? We're here to buy time, to allow for the evacuation of the civilians, and to stop the plans of the Emperor's enemies. Okay, why should we care about our allies, the guardsmen?
More corpses.
That's a good question, Ben. There are billions of guardsmen around the universe. They are not here. They are never in one place. Mostly. The more guardsmen we save means they can be deployed and used elsewhere in other battles. Alright, and for the Marines, the loss of one is a tragedy. Especially how in the Dawn of War series, the Blood Ravens go through some very tumultuous times. The 3rd Company will go on to form part of the elite, and will go on to act as the pillar of stability for the entire chapter. Unfortunately, there will inevitably be casualties. These will all occur in cutscenes, things we have no control over. I won't ignore these. Barring that, it's time to jump in. We're gonna set the game to hard. It only really affects the health of the enemy. Right, it's time to begin the crusade. Before every mission, there's a world map, and here, we see we're deploying at one of the major cities. Not much to talk about yet, for this is the only place on the planet the orcs have landed in large numbers. Upon making planetfall, we see dozens of guardsmen get minced. However, once we arrive, our men make short work of the vile orc, and we break their assault. In the next cutscene, we can see the only survivors are 7 guardsmen and their commanding officer, Colonel Brom. It is here from this point, the Bloodraven commits its fleet and ships to the evacuation. Now, the only thing we can deploy are tactical marines. After clearing our flank, we push forward and run into a breach in the spaceport's walls. We plug it up by sending in Angelos to draw their fire. The Codex Astartes labels this maneuver as plot armor. However, just up ahead, we run into guardsmen. 2 squads. However, what if I told you we can save them all? If you set the marines to hold fire and move up, neither side takes damage until you open fire. However, it doesn't stop there. I also found out if you simply leave and come back, the squads will reinforce by 1. So if you simply repeat this process, you can get both squads to fully reinforce to the max. After doing that, bring up your marines, fully encroach the enemy, and deploy our weapons. It's time to rip into these hooligans. This works and everyone is alive. We can replicate this with every group we meet. Moving forward, Angelos in front, marines in back, we can easily take out the orc base with no problem. As we swing to the east, there's a Leman Rust tank here. After saving the tank, it comes under our control. We just have to heal it up, but that's no problem. And we run into the last group of guardsmen survivors. For some reason, as I'm getting them to reinforce, one of the squads refuses to get the last man. That's because the AI have run out of money. So open up the diplomacy tab and give them all of our resources. They'll need it a lot more than we do. Try again and boom. Using all of the boys, we can just barely pull this off. However, our work has only begun. For throughout the entire game, we will capture and reinforce every single strategic point. And the nearest Imperial base is on the far side of the facility. So what we'll do is create another base right here in this central location and a barracks at the minor breach. Now these aren't for us, it's for the local Imperial forces. They'll use these to coordinate and station their forces. Regardless, that's all we can do now. Simply push forward and clear out the orcs. And in total, we saved and reinforced the entire guardsman force. There were 50, now there's 120 of them. In the next cutscene, we see the colonels arrived with reinforcements, 12 guardsmen and 1 tank. So that means in total, there are now 139 guardsmen and 2 Leman Rust tanks here. Not bad. And now the colonel can deploy his men however they're needed. And trust me, they'll be needed. At this time, due to the efforts of the Imperial and Bloodraven fleet, not too many orc clans are on the planet yet. Yet the biggest concentration is here, Clan Grognobs. They seem to be creating a staging ground before marching upon the nearest Imperial city. The mission starts out as a super secret sneaking mission. However here, stealth is optional. It is crucial to remove all the orc forces, especially the Gretchens. For when we move up, there are 10 guardsmen here, and they could be killed from the get-go. No reinforcing either. So what I did is I made our scouts engage in melee, drawing the orcs onto us. We hold them for as long as we can, and if we're lucky, they might chase us. If that happens to you, run to the east and pick up the other scouts. Then come back and continue to pin them down until they're all gone. We just saved all these guardsmen. Regardless, we push up and take out the local leader. We bring in the boys. After removing the misbegotten beasts, we can start to reinforce this area as we deploy and upgrade our entire force before moving out. Now for the push up here, there's a killer can and turrets. They'll make very short work of the 16 guardsmen that are here. To save our boys, we'll bring up a missile squad all the way to the beginning. We'll destroy the turret here, and then we can charge in with Angelos, acting as bait for the orcs, using the missile squads to take out the can, then the other turrets. It'll be tight, but we saved all of them.
We humans have to stick together.
Regardless, we actually get full control of the boys in green, so we'll reinforce them. However, do not equip them with plasma guns. This is actually beyond disastrous. Giving him grenade launchers though? Holy. Wow. Okay, yeah, I hope this shows how formidable the local guardsmen are. However, I didn't do this. I withdrew them back to the other guardsmen so they can all link up and move together. Pushing forward, we easily take out this base as we use the plot armor doctrine. As we push through to the land bridge, however, the orcs begin throwing killer cans at us. Using missiles and a bit of micro, we can easily take them out. The orcs are entrenched, so we set up a gun line. We use Angelos to give vision to our missile squads who chip away at the enemy line. We keep the pressure up, breaking every enemy counterattack until we clear the base. Moving to the last base, the orcs are churning out cans very quickly. We need to scout forward and take out the building that's making them. With this done, we can repeat the previous tactic and we can take out the stronghold. Then we can demolish the rest of the base. Unfortunately, before we celebrate, I must show you the first Bloodraven casualties. There's 2 squads of Space Marines, 2 Marines each. If you're quick, you can save the first squad, and I've tried everything, but there's nothing we can do for the second squad. The Imperial fleet and the Litany of Fury have regained control of the space above the cities. However, a ton of orcs have reached planetside. While many are forced to land on the other side of the planet, the orcs in the area are besieging the capital city, Magna Bonum. If the capital city falls, the planets will fall with it. There's also a stream of Imperial civilians. Luckily for us, the orcs completely ignore them. We won't give an inch to these barbarians. Also, in the cutscene, I consider these guys 100% alive. The second the camera pans away, I imagine it would go to the Space Marine logic of orc violence. Quickly send Angelos to the western defense, and Isidore to the eastern defense. Make sure to deploy 2 squads with missiles, whilst we make the guardsmen withdraw. They've done more than enough. We'll also have 1 missile and 1 heavy bolter squad at each point. With a bit of turret set up, no matter what the orcs throw against us, it will be easily repelled. Having firmly secured the front line, I gather a force of a few squads and they push towards the machine cult, taking out a small base on the way. Once we have a foothold, we can deploy the dreadnought. Once we've got 4 of them set up, send them in. No matter what, the enemy cannot fight back. Having cleared out the bases in the entire city, I move the dreadnoughts to cover the 3 breaches in the wall, while we recapture the rest of the city. Once the vehicles have been repaired, we push outside the walls and destroy the orc fortifications. Then we make a push into the final orc base. They're really dug in, but with support from Angelos and a few missile squads, we make short work of the base. Once we did that, however, I held back from taking out the very last orc building. It's time to build up the fortifications at the capital. It's time to make Dawn blush.
Yes.
The Imperial cities will all hold on until the very end of the evacuation, and the capital, being the most important, housing a spaceport, logistics, power and command facilities, we want to make sure this place holds on for as long as possible. In order to build turrets, however, we'll need to build headquarters. It's annoying, but necessary. After doing that, we can fully begin construction, setting up rows of bolter and missile turrets. But we also want to keep a way for vehicles and troops to move through, just in case. So we lay down mines. However, the current year is 40,000, so these are quite advanced and they won't go off around humans. Having secured the walls, it was time to fortify the city, setting up turrets at every strategic point. While we're at it, I thought it'd be fitting if we set up another base closer to the breach for the local Imperial forces to use, and finally setting up positions in a proper way at the Imperial headquarters. By doing this, we've ensured the capital will stand until the very last man, woman and child has been evacuated from the city. And this whole time, not a single human perished. All the men, women and children survived, as thousands of them are pouring through. Having done that, we finish the rest of the orcs.
Knock it off, all of yous. We's moving out. We's gonna go get Big Boss Orc among us. He got something special planned for these humies. This is gonna be the best fight of their miserable lives.
Just make sure it's the last fight of their lives.
I don't take orders from you, Humie.
We've held up our side of the bargain, have we not? You wanted a new planet to wage war on, and we have given it to you. And all we ask in return is that you keep the Imperials distracted from our operations here.
We'll keep them more than busy. We'll keep them dead.
It's clear that their war boss, Orcamungus, is leading his boys very efficiently. We need to cut the head of Orc leadership. This will put the War in disarray. Starting, however, as we make short work of this base with the artillery, once we move in and get things set up, the Orcs barely attack us, which gives us plenty of time to deploy our forces. 6 dreadnoughts and many squads of marines with heavy bolters and missiles. With this force, we can easily remove the first Orc base with complete ease. Having done that, we look into beginning the siege of the Orc citadel. However, once we got close to the base, this Squiggoth charges us and then runs off. But the real problem starts here. The Orcs have multiple artillery batteries that outrange us. They both have the Warboss and Squiggoth that has over 16,000 health. And any casualties we inflict onto the enemy, they can easily replace with their buildings. So our only option is to charge in with all of my forces and establish a beachhead. After getting our men ready, it begins. We charge in with our dreadnoughts as they act as the bulwark, quickly followed up by Angelos, the Marines and Servitors. A large detachment of the Orc host would fight us, and for that we will deploy our forces accordingly. Whilst this fight is occurring, we use a single dreadnought to act as bait for all the Orc artillery. Then I send in my dreadnoughts to charge into the main Orc base. While the Orcs are mostly pinned, I send in my missile squads to deal with the base. It is absolutely hectic and this took a lot of time. We managed to punch through and we've taken out their facilities. We were barely able to remove the Orc base, but it was done. I linked my forces back together, and after a bit of healing, I knew it was now or never to take the fight to the enemy. We charged in again with all my men, and shockingly, the Squiggoth ran off again. But that worked in our favor, as we made short work of the rest of their forces. Having done that, the Squiggoth and Warboss are trapped in a corner. I made ready to kill this monstrosity, but considering how much health it had, it would inevitably kill some of our men. So with no other options, I decided now is the time to dig in and utilize our own artillery. I deploy 3 whirlwinds, and thus the siege began. The Squiggoth surprisingly didn't move at all, so sit back and whip out some tunes to pass the time. After about 20 to 30 minutes, enough damage has been wrought. Then I commit all our boys for one last push, and we actually deal with the beast and the warboss, no problem. With that out of the way, it's time to completely reinforce this place to deny this area to the enemy, with plenty of mines and plenty of turrets, as this is only 50 kilometers away from the capital. If the Orcs want to use this as a staging ground, they'll have to fight for it. Unfortunately, this is where we take 2 more casualties, 2 scout marines.
Brother Tantheus?
Burned beyond recovery of his gene seed, along with Brother Michaelis. They burned from the inside out, but we saw a dropship leave the area. Captain, she bore the 8-pointed star.
The mark of the ruinous powers of chaos.
No longer will we hunt Orcs. We need to find out why chaos is operating here, and to wipe him out. It's at this time an Inquisitor arrives.
His name's
No, not that one. His name is Inquisitor Toth.
You and your men must leave Tartarus. Now.
The Orc horde is in disarray. However, they still have the firepower and forces to overrun the planet. All we've done is buy time, but for now, we will no longer be focusing on the Orcs. We believe that chaos may be operating on the planet, and we have no choice but to commit our attention to this. We run into the vile Eldar instead, specifically the extremely xenophobic and warlike Eldar of the Bealtan craft world.
We're in contact with aliens.
Like what kind of shit?
Here's what's happening, because it's not just one group of aliens.
Okay, tell me what's going on.
Let me begin. Well, first off, elves is the main group.
Okay.
And they call them the elves. It's clockwork elves.
I don't think you're allowed to say that anymore.
To get at the root of the chaos corruption, we will have to fight through these Xenos. Unfortunately, in the next cutscene, we sustain 2 more casualties, 2 more scouts. For this alone, show no mercy. So when I first moved up, I made sure to really take my time, removing well over a few hundred of their misbegotten kind. It's not a worthy exchange for the lives of 2 of my men, but it'll have to do. There's not much to say, we just push through the valley, taking out every single base as we see it, until we reach the end, when the Eldar and Orc forces are engaging each other. It's here that we focus on wiping out the barbaric Orcs first. With them completely gone, we push through to the Eldar, and they really cannot fight back. There's a lot of them, but they just flail against our holy armor. But as we wipe out their forces leading up to the excavation site, we make one last push, destroying them all. After we've taken out their base, we can fully fortify this valley to deny this area to any force. A quick and simple mission. We managed to reach our objective, which turns out to be a chaos altar, acting as like a marker. Isidore is tasked with examining it to find out where it leads. Although, the seed of dissent has been planted by the chaos sorcerer, Sindri.
Quiet, heretic. Once I find what you seek, I will use it against you for the glory of the Emperor and my brothers.
You wish to deal me a harsh blow, to prove your strength and worth. Well then come to me. I wait at Mount Korath.
Have no fear, sorcerer. I will be there.
At this stage, the evacuation is being carried out as efficiently as possible, as the guard are being stretched to the breaking point, as they are barely managing to keep order within the cities, as they hold off the Orcs, whilst there are convoys of Imperial refugees making a pilgrimage to the main spaceports. There's nothing we can do. The altar pointed here, at Mount Korath. As the mission begins, we have to fight through the Bealtan to set up a base. Once we do that, however, the Eldar are very quick to assault our position. But we are stretched thin as the Eldar are relentless. When the guard arrives, led by Colonel Brahm himself, we have full control of them, and will make sure there are no casualties as we set them up. Tanks and the Colonel up front with the men in back. We fight tooth and nail to set ourselves up. With enough dreadnoughts and missile fire, we form a cohesive defensive line against the Eldar vehicles. Now we can finally deploy the venerable Predator tank, a beauty of a machine. We will deploy 4 of them, and upgrade 2 of them with anti-tank capabilities. We have deployed all of our apothecaries, but I've attached them to the Imperial Guard squads to give them support and to show them that the Emperor's angels are with them. With our forces built up, we push out. These tanks are unstoppable, brushing aside all the Bealtan throw at us. However, very quickly, we run into survivors.
Thank the Emperor you're here. I think Command forgot about us.
How long have you been here?
About a week.
You held this position for a week? By yourselves?
Yes, my lord. We've seen some pretty freaky stuff too. Come on, we'll show you.
Although they run off trying to show us a webway and we get ambushed. However, we're able to keep them alive with an ability from our librarian that makes all nearby allies immortal. After dealing with that scum, we actually get control of this squad, allowing us to reinforce them, effectively saving 15 people from this cursed place. They deserve rest, and they'll be held within the back to recuperate. Pushing forward, the Eldar stand no chance, taking out their positions one at a time, including the webway gates. Until I noticed, however, the Eldar have deceivingly set up a base where we can't touch them. If they survive today, they'll kill more of our people tomorrow. so I alter my defensive line, bringing the dreadnoughts and missile squads to halt the Orcs' assault. The Lehman Russ tanks of the Tartarus 37th actually act as artillery pieces. Like a good old siege, we hunker down and let the guns do the work. It works wonders. Although there's a vehicle production building that's just out of range. It was very painful, but I figured it out. Bringing up 2 assault squads and apothecaries, we send 1 squad in, throwing a melter bomb, and then withdraw. And then we do the same thing with the next squad. By the time that's done, the first squad should be healed up and ready to go. It is risky and it looks bad, but once the building's gone, we can focus on the vehicles, and then when that's done, we can reduce the rest of the base to rubble. None shall escape. With that, well, pushing through here is hellish. The Eldar are finally deploying anti-tank platforms. These are bad, really bad. We just gotta send in our leaders, activate the immortality, and then followed by our tanks. We do as much damage as we can. We go in for that one last push. That is it. We've routed the arrogant, misbegotten, accursed Eldar from this place. My hatred of them is only second to Tarkus.
Save your excuses, witch.
It turns out the Eldar were trying to bury this relic. As we're in the middle of studying it, for some unknown reason, the Inquisitor is incredibly suspicious of our forces of harboring a heretical intent. He cannot order us to leave, so he takes complete control of the planet and the Astra Militarum forces, saying that we will get no more support from here on out.
You are done.
We spent hours at the mountain, studying the runes on the marker. It points us to another artifact deep within the city of Saint Louvermar. The convoys are still ongoing, and the Orc forces are pushing on all fronts. However, we must push forward. As it turns out, the next Chaos artifact is a key of some sort. The Eldar don't launch any attacks, so we make good on that time, as we deploy 6 Predator tanks, 3 anti-infantry, 3 anti-tank. We use this to quickly blitz through the enemies, and we dislodge the Xenos from this side of the river, until pushing towards the Avatar. However, he has no infantry support, so we're able to easily dispose of this monstrosity. We also capture a few relics, which allows us to justify deploying our regiment of 1st Company Terminators. Although, I see it differently. I imagine we kept these men in reserve until we found the Chaos forces. However, in this mission's cutscene, the Eldar slaughter 4 of our scouts. To answer this transgression, we finally deploy our very best. Terminator squads with apothecaries and Gatling cannons. We gather all our forces, our tanks, our men, and our leaders. It was time. The first obstacle is the bridge, which honestly, all it took was one big push. The doors came down and our tanks took the brunt. When the anti-tank platforms came up, we used Angelos to bring down orbital bombardment. The second this abated, the Terminators charged. After pushing through, we had finally established our foothold. This is where the pain begins. Throughout our entire push south, the Eldar forces would constantly spam these platforms on us. Anti-infantry and anti-tank, and they just shred us. Due to this constant strain, we're forced to constantly push. However, we did make some ground, but this endless assault pushed our force to the breaking point, because we're unable to heal our tanks. We charge in with the rest of our forces, and I activate Isidor's immortality ability. This gives us precious time to conduct as much damage as possible. And for some reason, half the Eldar were hell-bent on pushing towards the bridge for some reason. That would give us breathing space, as the Eldar just leave. With this, we brought the death knell upon the Eldar, and then we took out the other base. Having done this, we'd go through the city and clean out the remaining Eldar forces. We had avenged our boys. Now, it's time to pull a Dawn, and do only what a Primarch could. This area is critical. It's a river crossing. The Orcs will approach from the west, so I set up an entire defensive line. and just like before, there are rows of missile and bolter turrets on all sides. I set up a second base on the eastern side, and then I fortified the southern bridge in case the orcs attempted to repair it. And I imagined the guardsmen forces would be able to hold off this army here with their artillery, mortar, and entrenched positions alongside our turrets. Back to our mission, however. Sindri came in and stole the key, while Farsi Amaka artistically tries to explain the situation to us.
Who was that alien? What did he steal?
A key. The last step along a bloody path.
A key to what?
The undoing of us all.
Stop speaking in riddles.
He stole a key. A key to the shadows of this world, to the evil horror that lies within.
Tell me what this key does.
If you didn't loathe the Eldar before, these games will make you seethe at them. Believe me, it gets so much worse. Even after losing her entire army, and through her own actions, the enemy she sought to stop, she in fact laid the key out bare for them. And she doesn't even have the dignity to tell us what's going on. She only tells us that the Inquisitor knows, and that he was here before the warp storm even arrived. The only good news is that the Eldar have been driven off. Their main strike force has been utterly crippled. However, the situation has only escalated, for chaos cults have been emerging within the cities, and actual traitor Astartes have been spotted as well. They're attempting to perform a ritual with the key they just stole, and to defend their main base of operations, they've caused a great chasm to cut through the very land. There's a huge issue here. This is the one mission I dreaded, for there are two large groups of Space Marines. The first group is made up of 18 Marines and 8 Assault Marines. In the second group, there are 33 Marines and 1 Apothecary. The second the mission starts, they start dying. It is literally impossible to save them all. In total, there are 60 Marines, and if you do nothing, they'll all die. Okay. Considering that's 2/3 of the entire company dying over a ditch, not to mention all of these squads are being reinforced in the middle of fighting, you lose upwards of 70 to 80 Marines. By all standards, literally, symbolically, and lore-wise, this is not possible. So instead, I'll apply some logic, and I'll turn this into something more realistic and lore-friendly. Knowing that the Chaos Forces have finally been located, and they're enacting a ritual, time is of the essence. A forward base and a squad of tactical Marines were deployed ahead of the company to secure the area. A tactical squad is made up of 10 Marines, and in order to stop the Chaos Encirclement, the Sergeant would have split his squad into 2, 5 Marines on either side. Now, using that logic and a bit of maths, dividing 60 by 10 means for every 6 Dawn of War Marines equals to 1 lore-accurate Marine. This may sound weird, but it'll make sense when we actually get into it. Right, the moment the mission starts, move all your men and open the Diplomacy tab. Send all your requisition to the boys. They will need this. Your Apothecary can't heal them up, so forget it. Send everyone here except for Isidore. Send him here and have him use his ability on this squad. Then have him shoot and tank their fire. Over here, use our Assault Marines to fly over. This will draw all the enemy fire. While this is happening, send Angelos here with the Apothecary, so he will tank the turret and enemy fire. After doing this many times, the highest amount of Marines that I can save is 48. 18 in Group 1 and 30 in Group 2. So, going off our calculations, 48 Dawn of War Marines would equal 8 lore-accurate Marines. However, considering a ton of the boys were reinforcing during the fighting, I'll be generous and double that number. In this engagement, 4 Marines died and 6 survived. That's a lot more realistic. Now, going from this, we'll clear out the western side, capture, and reinforce it. We move to the east and build up our forces, and with the fury of 1,000 suns, to avenge our men, we would send in our most deadly units onto the traitorous host, the Land Raider. Sending these in with Terminator support is quite a sight. We rip and tear our way through the city, leaving nothing but the corpses of traitors in our wake. Once we push to the gates of the once holy chapel, we then swing around and push our way into the Alpha Legion scum. With that, their base is gone. Once this is done, we can head out and fortify the city. And once we've broken down the doors, a ton of corrupted guardsmen ambush us. To little avail. Sindri and Lord Bale of this Alpha Legion warband have both escaped with the key, yet the ritual is not complete. There's still a chance to turn this around. Inquisitor Toth arrives and he finally explains the plot, lore. To summarize, this planet once had a small human colony by the time of the Great Crusade, and an extremely powerful demon had emerged from the warp here. It had seduced the whole planet to chaos. In response, the Elder of Bealtan arrived. After a long and bloody fight, the demon was defeated. But it couldn't be killed, so it was trapped in a stone called the Maledictum. Yet somehow, the remnant Chaos forces broke through, captured the stone, and were ordered by the demon inside to bury the stone and markers leading to it. Then, thousands of years later, new human colonists arrived, blind to what laid beneath their feet. And now, this Alpha Legion warband has all the pieces necessary to unleash the demon within the Maledictum.
They are weak, terrified of the power that you alone are strong enough to control. Think of the good you could do in the name of the Emperor. Think of the power you could wield. It is all yours for the taking. The Maledictum is mine.
This is the last time we'll see the global map. As you can tell, this is a complete disaster. Over 60% of the population has fallen to the Orc, while what's left of the Guard are fighting a desperate rearguard action to protect those who remain as they evacuate. To make matters worse, nearly 25% of the Guard have fallen to chaos, corrupted into cultists and butchering their former brothers. The warp storm will arrive in 24 hours, yet until the very bitter end, not one city has fallen. We have arrived at where this warband are trying to complete the ritual, at the city of Luvamar. We've deployed a base here, supplemented by some survivors of the Tartarus 37th. Isidore has turned, and has taken 4 of our brothers with him. There's nothing we can do about that. What we can do is fortify the entrances of our base. For some reason, the Lehman Russ tanks have been damaged. It'll take time for the machine spirit to kick in. Once they do, we'll use all of them to help hold the front. The enemy don't attack too ferociously, yet I refuse to push into the city until Captain Angelos arrives. He drops down with 3 servitors, 2 squads of scout marines, and 3 squads of terminators. After a pitiful ambush, we march our way south, capturing and fortifying every point as we go, making sure to remove plenty of traitors along the way. With our force, we manage to take out the southern Chaos base. Instead of linking up, there's an opening here. We then march onto the southern relic, capturing it. We hold this position until we can start deploying our land raiders. And all 4 land raiders on the ground, we push north as we roll out our holy armor, clearing the inner circle, then pushing into their base as we crush the enemies of the beneficent Emperor underneath our treads. We slowly push forward, crushing everything, pushing them until it is done. Now it's time to fortify. Whilst we're doing this, we will bring the Inquisitor and the entire Guard regiment to the north here. There are still more cultist forces out there that need to be crushed. These guardsmen will see to that. With that, we take and fortify the last relic, and after a few minutes, the protective seal around the ritual is broken. In this cutscene, this guy dies. That's a bug. When the game first came out, all the Marines target the leaders. Yet in some future patch, they no longer did that. Therefore, I don't consider this death as canon. Thank you, Big Dick Cheney.
Sindri! Sindri!
The ritual failed. It turns out it was never meant to be completed.
It is time. Leave him. How dare you, sorcerer! My lord, never forget all power demands sacrifice. Thank you for yours. There it is, as I promised. Yours for the taking. Old friend?
Isidore has betrayed us, and no one could have seen this coming. The turncoats killed 4 of our brothers as well, single-handedly killing more of our men than anything else in this campaign. We will not let this stand. We are focused purely on the city of Vermintide. We last had reports of both Sindri, Isidore, and the Maledictum being at this location. The Alpha Legion has thrown everything they've got in the city center. We can also see that there are still some Imperial holdouts. When the Orcs begin to overrun the cities, as the spaceports are emptied, these fortresses will be evacuated Fall of Saigon style. I don't build up any forces. It'll take time for the traders to mobilize. Using that to our advantage, we capture the nearest points, and we quickly tech up as quick as we can. And the Chaos forces do some probing attacks. Nothing too drastic, until they send in a Demon of Khorne, a Bloodlayer. Luckily for us, we just deployed our first Land Raider. It's time to add another body to the pile. Having removed this demon, it's only a matter of time until we deploy the rest of our armor. 4 Land Raiders, 4 Terminator squads. The city is heavily fortified, but that does little to halt our assault. We push to the northern base first, taking that out mercilessly. Then, we swing to the east to take out the fortifications in the center. Then, our sword falls upon the east, utterly crushing the enemy. So from here, we go across the map, removing any survivors and destroying all fortifications left behind. Then we fortify everything. No need to deploy our turrets anymore, as the planet has just a few scant hours left. We've wrestled control of the city center from the heretics, and we've brought it back into the fold, if only for a few hours. Once that's done, we tend to the fallen angel.
You are a fool, Gabriel. You know you are no match for me.
Of all my brothers, why you? You were stronger than this.
I am stronger than you ever imagined. I can feel the universe tremble at my approach. Even the gods know my name.
No one will remember you, traitor. I will see to that. I betrayed no one. Innocents die so that humanity may live. I ended their suffering, as I will end yours.
You have beaten me. I cannot believe it. I was wrong, Gabriel. So wrong. I thought I was strong. Strong enough to control it. I wanted to use the power for good, for the Imperium. You must see that. You must give me the chance to make amends, to seek redemption.
If redemption is what you seek, then that is what I will give you.
There's less than an hour until the warp storm consumes the planet. The evacuation is finished, as the Imperial Navy is holding position over the planet, as all Bloodraven flights are on standby, ready to pick us up at a moment's notice. Tartarus is gone. Its cities are burning, the very ground tainted by the blood of aliens and traitors. The only thing left on this infernal rock are the remnants of the Alpha Legion and his angels of death, the Blood Ravens.
We have little time left. We must assume Sindri has released the demon.
Then our course is clear. We must destroy it. The demon will not find our hearts lacking.
I know. I believe you, Captain. Here.
What is this?
A demon hammer. God Splitter. We have always intended to destroy the demon within the stone.
You entrust this artifact to me?
I can think of no better champion to wield Godsplitter against the demon. And you can call it a premonition, but I believe you will end this fight, not I.
Almost. A moment more, damn you. Yes. It is upon us. Bear witness to my ascension!
As the mission starts, one of our squads is tied down in melee combat. We move him back, and that's the hardest part in the mission. We build up our forces and we hold these 2 choke points. The Chaos forces are remarkably weak, reduced to just Marines, Demons, and Cultists. Since we start out with a lot of people, all we can deploy are 3 Land Raiders and 1 Terminator squad. However, we're not alone, as the last remnants of the Bealtan Strike Force have also committed themselves to this final battle as well. However, the Chaos Forces focus on them, and wow. Okay, they've just been crumbled. You know, we could have helped them, but to quote a great man,
I will not trade the lives of my men for theirs. Die well.
Well said, General. With that out of the way, our forces push north, destroying one base here, then pushing to the east, destroying their main base, as we pay very close attention to not pulling the Demon Prince Sindri. They just do not stand a chance. It's a complete slaughter. And for no other reason than out of spite for the orcs and traitors on this planet, we will capture and fortify the strategic points. We fortified the map, but the one issue is the last point here. It'll alert the Demon Prince.
Despair!
So I brought my entire army around, completely surrounding him, and then I sent in my Land Raider to draw his fire. However, getting the last fortification built, I sent all my servitors to heal the Land Raider, and we actually out-heal the demon. I get my forces to stop firing, and the moment the building is upgraded, our sword falls upon this beast with the smooth voice of evil wine.
Human, do not destroy the stone! You will doom us all!
Ignore her, Captain. Destroy the stone before it leads others to ruin.
You know not what you do! We cannot allow this. Take this human down!
No!
Fool! You have damned us all!
Well done, Captain.
Let us bid haste, brothers. The fleet is about to depart and leave us stranded.
I am free. You have my thanks.
Show yourself, demon.
I will. Soon. Until then, go forth and spread word of my return.
Okay, we forgot a detail. Or more aptly, someone didn't, tell us. This planet was turned into an altar for Khorne, and every single death has contributed as a blood sacrifice that freed the demon from the stone. If we destroyed it earlier, it would have permanently killed this greater demon. Instead, with the many sacrifices that we've provided, the war boss, Lord Baal, and finally, Sindri himself, that was enough to complete the ritual. The demon allows us to leave, in a twisted sense of honor for freeing it. But that is the end of Dawn of War. What a ride. We may have unwittingly released a demon, but believe me, its time in this galaxy is very much numbered. it can be surmised that we evacuated 35% of the population. The cynic in you might scoff, but that is 1.4 million people, all of them fleeing with the blessing of the Inquisition. Then there's the Blood Ravens of the Third Company. We're battered, but victorious. Under my command, we did not suffer a single loss, but those dreaded cutscenes. However, there's also a little bit of retconning here. For in the sequel, Dawn of War 2 and its expansions, there is war gear in those games, and among the stats, they have descriptions, and some of them depict casualties. Sergeant Mattiel, he perished against Sindri in the final battle. I'm pretty sure this is referring to this guy, everyone's favorite character. We did see him in the end, though that could have been another sergeant. He wouldn't be the first bold guy in 40k.
You have Captain Diomedes.
Tech Marine Ephraim, he perished to the traitor Isidore. I imagine this happened right before he turned. Sergeant Hurios, a Terminator, and a Dreadnought Trithos. I believe these two perished after we dealt with Isidore. In total, throughout this entire campaign, 23 casualties, 8 scouts, 11 marines, 1 Terminator, 1 Tech Marine, 1 Dreadnought, and 1 Librarian. And in exchange, the war boss killed, and his entire orc army will be completely destroyed as they are trapped in the warp storm. The Bealtan strike force has been utterly wiped out, as they're just reduced to 13 troops. The Alpha Legion warband is destroyed to the last man, whilst saving well over 1 million of our people. If that isn't a victory, I don't know what is. And if I'm completely honest, and if I'm to wear my heart on my sleeve for a moment, this game makes you feel as if you're doing your part for humanity. In this vast, cold, alien universe, you are actually making a difference. However small that may be, you're doing your part. Within 40k, there's a reason they fight, not for the love of combat or glory, but for the love of what they're defending, humanity. For all its faults, and for all its troubles and failures, you genuinely can find camaraderie, beauty, and hope. There is some good left in this world, even if it's buried, to keep the fluttering flame of human civilization alive. There will be peace one day, all across the stars for humanity, but we will never see this. The main reason is it's a franchise, sure. That's not how I see it. The way we see 40k is the same way countless unknown soldiers would see their wars, dying in the middle at some disputed barricade, giving their life for a victory they'll never see. That is us in this world. We do this for all those who come after us, so that one day our people will live in peace, freedom, and happiness. That is why we fight. This darkness will pass, even if we will never live to see it, because some things are just worth fighting for.